Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Amy and I'm a high school teacher, a voracious reader, and a wannabe writer. And today I want to talk to you about the books that I bought at the New England Crime Bake writing conference that I attended last weekend. I'm really excited about the books I got, so we're just going to jump right into it. The first book I picked up was Here in the Night by Rebecca Turkowitz. And I was surprised to find this one on the tables because this was not crime fiction or mystery, which is the theme of the New England Crime Bake, but this is a collection of horror short stories. And I just found it really interesting. And I tell a story about how I came across this book and the author in my previous video about why you should attend a writing conference. So if you want to hear more of the backstory about how I picked up this book, then you should definitely check out that video. But yeah, this collection is her debut collection, and it is mostly like ghost stories, and it's literary quiet horror is how she describes it. And it just sounds really great. So I'm really excited. And some of the themes that she explores are the terror of human relationships, of regret and betrayal, and the incalculable risk of love. So gorgeous book. Once again, has the nice feel, and it is published by Black Lawrence Press, and it just sounds amazing. So I can't wait to read it. So the next book that I picked up is The Devil's Snare, and this is a short story anthology. It was put out by the Best of New England Crime Stories 2024. So this is their collection that they produce like every single year. And it was really awesome because then they had everyone line up at a certain time who's featured in this book who attended the event. So I got this collection signed by everyone who was there, and that was pretty awesome. I don't really know too much about this collection other than that it is crime fiction. I read the intro and that sounded kind of interesting, where it's sort of exploring characterization, and typically in crime fiction, you have a hero solving a crime and there's a villain in it who committed the crime. From what I'm understanding of this collection, it's really kind of playing with some of those tropes, adding more complexity to the main characters, and that sounds really exciting to me. And I love good mystery. I don't read as much crime fiction, but it's something that I am interested in. So this sounds great. And I just want to say, shout out to this author. I've never heard of her before, but she put a little bookmark in when she signed it, and this little card is like so cute. And I hope I'm pronouncing the name right, but I think it's pronounced Sheila Smith. It says, "Look for Fall River, a tale of Lizzie Borden, spring 2026. So that sounds amazing. I would love to read this book about Lizzie Borden. I have no idea if it's nonfiction, if it's fiction, but it sounds great. And then her Insta is Weirdly Neurotic Writer. And that just tells me everything I need to know, that this is a person I want to follow. This is a person whose writing I want to read. So, and the card is just like really cool. Shout out to Sheila Smith. You got my attention. So the next two books I want to talk about, I actually picked up after I attended a particular panel discussion on how to write about disability. These two books I picked up are Own Voices. So the two panelists that I picked up their books, they are writing about disability, but they are writing about disabilities that they also have. I really enjoyed their panel discussion. They answered my questions. They were very kind, and they gave great advice for writing about disability. And the first one I picked up was Pengu's Shadow by Karen Bao. This is not the type of book that I would normally pick up if I was at a bookstore, to be honest. It's fantasy and science fiction kind of melded together with mystery. It takes place on like a different star system, I think is what it is. Yes, the Pengu star system. I'll tell you a little bit about the book, but yeah, it's just not something that really pops up on my radar. I don't read a ton of fantasy. I have in the past. I'm very particular about the fantasy I read. It's usually more of like the gothic variety, or like a fantasy that has like a fairy tale retelling twist to it or something like that. So if I had just passed this, I would have just passed up. So I'm glad I went to this event and got to hear the author talk about it, because it does sound very interesting to me. I want to support more Own Voices authors. It's really important to me as someone who also is a neurodivergent person who wants to write about neurodivergent characters and bring more inclusivity to books. That's really important. So all I'm going to say about this one is that we have two characters that are working in a science lab, and it seems like it's at a college setting, because one of their professors is murdered and one of them becomes a prime suspect and they have to kind of team up. But I think that they are rivals. They're not friends, but they do have to pair up to solve this murder. There's all kinds of other things that I don't understand about it. So I'm going to have to read it, figure out the world building and, how everything works in this. But there's a lot of science around like prosthetics, for example, just very like futuristic things about that. It does sound really cool. The book is gorgeous. And yeah, I'm excited to read it. The next book that I picked up is called The Last Line by Scott Lyerly, I think is how you pronounce the last name. I hope it is. And Scott was really nice. I really loved his presentation on the panel discussion. He also answered my question and was very kind about it too. In his book, we have a character who has Tourette syndrome, which is something that Scott also has. And this one actually sounds right up my alley. So this is his debut book, I believe. We have someone, they're working in theater. So I know that. I'm just trying to figure out what her role is in this. But it takes place in a community theater. So I don't know if this woman is, I don't know what the title of her role would be, but she's like, so I don't know if she's like the producer or the director, but she's running a performance and she herself has Tourette's syndrome and her male lead drops dead and everyone is a potential suspect in the cast and they have to catch the killer before they pull another show-stopping murder. And that just sounds fun to me. I don't believe this is a cozy. He didn't say it was a cozy. So there may be like more swearing or violence in this book than what would be in a cozy. Once again, I've talked about this before. That doesn't bother me. I know I read a lot of cozies and I like that wholesome element, but I love reading any kind of mystery that has like a fun amateur sleuth kind of thing to it. So this one sounds really great. I love reading about theater and I think it'll be really fun. And I can't wait to see what I think and share my thoughts with you all. The final 3 books that I picked up at the New England Crime Bake are nonfiction. They were written by authors who are published and who also were at the Crime Bake and participating in discussions and all of that. I didn't get a chance to meet these 2 authors because I just didn't attend the same panel discussions because of where I'm at in my own writing journey, but I thought their books sounded really useful to me and I really do want to explore. I don't have a lot of books on writing besides like Stephen King's on writing, and I might have like 1 or 2 other ones on my shelf that I haven't even really looked at but weren't really particular on what I'm trying to do with my writing. But this one sounds pretty good. It's called The Writer's Guide to Beginnings, How to Craft Story Openings That Sell. And I picked this one up because in one of the panel discussions that I attended, they were really talking about how the first page in your book really sells the book in terms of like to agents and editors and publishers and all of that. And then the last page of your book is what kind of sells it to readers, that they will want to continue reading your books. So I want to make sure that when I'm writing my book that I have a really good opening. And it just seems like it's full of like great information about the anatomy of a first page, scene development, idea generation, and just all kinds of things. And what I liked about it when I was sort of flipping through it, there's a lot of explanation, but there's also examples from other writers' works analyzing their first pages, which I think is really helpful to have. I like when people are writing about things and they have exemplars. I find that helpful. And as a teacher, like that's something that I try to do as well. And then there are also exercises for how you can kind of explore it and bring it together. So this one here has a chock full of information. I don't think this is something that I can just rush through and like sit down and read all at one go because there's just a lot in this book from what I'm seeing. So it'd be nice to just let myself write my draft and then come back to this when I want to start like polishing up the first chapter, especially when I'm still trying to figure out for that revision, the idea development and revising for story first before craft. That's how I'm thinking about it. So this one looks great. And I should say that was by Paula Munier. I hope I'm pronouncing her last name right. And she also wrote this one as well that I picked up called Plot Perfect. And this one also, same thing. This one looks great. She is a literary agent, editor, and author. And here are some of the things you'll find in the book. Devise powerful plots and subplots and weave them together seamlessly. Organize your scenes for the greatest impact. Develop captivating protagonists, worthy antagonists, and engaging secondary characters. Use dialogue, setting, tone, and voice to enhance your plot. layer, refine, and polish your storyline, define your story in terms of its theme. So when I was flipping through this one there, once again, you have exemplars, you have different like charts and exercises that you can do as you're going through. And a lot of this is also helping with like plotting. So I just want to like show this really caught my attention because as someone who's like visual and neurodivergent, so I don't necessarily like what works for other people in terms of like planning and plotting and collecting ideas. It doesn't necessarily work for me. I kind of operate in a very different way. So seeing like mind mapping in these ways actually really speaks to me a lot. So there's all kinds of great things in here. And she even, does those same diagrams, but for example. So this one here on this page is Hannibal Lecter. And then there's charts in here for creating character profiles and just all kinds of awesome things. The last book that I picked up is called Writing and Selling Your Mystery Novel by Hallie Efron. And this one just sounds really cool. It says a Mystery Writers of America Edgar Award finalist for Best Critical Biographical Work. So those are some of her credentials there. But once again, it's, really focusing on plot, characters, setting, and more, but very specific to the mystery, suspense, and crime genre. I liked how this one was broken down as well. So there's like a whole section on just planning, a whole section on writing, and then a whole section on revising, which is like something that I really need more support with because I think I get caught up in my drafting because I'm so overwhelmed thinking about how am I going to take everything that I wrote, fix it all, and make it something that's coherent and marketable. So that looks really great. And then a whole section on publishing your mystery novel from traditional publishing versus self-publishing. And I do like the layout of this one as well. And once again, there's lots of different exercises and charts, things for, just putting your ideas out there in ways that I feel like kind of work for my brain. Because I like when they put in tables and it's not just a bunch of writing prompts. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but those kind of books don't work for me when it's just a bunch of like, here's a writing prompt and like just go forth and free write, but actually having lists and tables. So I think this is going to be a great one too. These are definitely books that I want to focus on in 2025 for helping me just finish up I won't even say finish up because I am barely started on this cozy mystery. I mean, 3 chapters, that's just not a lot. Plus that horror short story that I never finished either. So I really want to prioritize those things. And what I'm doing is like not allowing myself in 2025 to buy any more books on writing craft. I really feel like these 3 are good enough to get me really started. I don't want to get into this place that sometimes I can get into. I don't know if all people are like this or if this is just, sometimes I wonder, are all writers experiencing these things or is this unique to a writer who has ADHD? But a lot of times like I'll get caught up in certain things that don't necessarily move me forward. So I'll be in the middle of writing something, but I'll spend like an hour researching this very niche thing about what I'm writing about instead of actually just writing the plot forward. And I will also, get into just wanting to take a whole bunch of writing courses or reading a whole bunch of books on the topic. But then once again, I'm just kind of like in this reading phase, but I'm not actually doing the writing and applying the things. I'm just gathering knowledge and information, but then I'm not producing anything from that. So I am going to be challenging myself in the new year. I'm going to break it down where I'm going to choose one book for maybe like a quarter that I just focus on as I'm going through and using that. I think I'm going to go with Plot Perfect first, and then the Writing and Selling the Mystery Novel second, and then the Writing a Great Beginning third, because then I can be using that last book in order to polish up the second draft of the novel and getting everything off the ground and running in the right direction for the second draft, and spending maybe like, 3 or 4 months on each book as like my one focal point. That's how I'm kind of envisioning it this time around, instead of just, all right, I'm just going to keep gathering and not getting any writing down. So yeah, so stay tuned for more videos coming up because we are in the end of the year. We're in almost the middle of November now. December is going to be crazy times with the holidays. It always is. But I'm already starting to get into planning mode for 2025. So I do want to have a lot of videos coming out about goal setting, because I love doing that, what I'm sort of planning for and prioritizing for, the ways that I'm going to sort of approach things, because I'm going to try to do some things differently based on what I've been learning about myself this past year as a writer and all that good stuff. So hopefully you will stick around and come along with me for that journey. I hope you enjoyed this haul, and I will see you all next time. Thanks. Bye.